This is just a short video, but I wanted to demonstrate the stark reality of a clearly observable principle penned in a quip that, unfortunately, life has given us plenty of examples of. And that is that a government that's big enough to give you everything you want is also big enough to take everything you've got. In other words, if you demand and accept some things from government that you think are good, that will benefit you and others you believe and benefit all mankind, it would be foolish of you and I to comfort ourselves with delusional thoughts that that same government won't in the very next or even in the very same moment lay something on you and me that is far from good or is downright evil. Matter of fact, everything the government tells you they're doing is for our good. From their perspective, every law is good. Every ordinance, every regulation, edict, fine, and punishment, it's all good, and it's all just, and it's all right. They'll tell you that what they're doing is necessary for a properly functioning society. Every day they attempt to sell people on the idea that they're filled with pure and good intentions. But there are two important truths that I want you to take away from this video. Number one, necessity will always be the plea for every infringement of human freedoms. I mean, every single one of them. It will always be the argument of tyrants because they want to overtly and covertly rule you, and it'll always be the creed of slaves. Because let's face it, most of them feel a sense of comfort and security from being ruled. And number two, those good intentions will always be pleaded for every assumption of authority. Daniel Webster said, "It's hardly too strong to say that the Constitution was made to guard the people against the dangers of good intentions. There are men in all ages who mean to govern well, but they mean to govern. They promise to be good masters, but they mean to be your masters." So when a government functionary makes a law and requires you to follow it, even if it sounds like it's a good law, he's actually enslaving you. And as for man-made laws that happen to coincide with and agree with natural law, well, those are just redundancies. They're unnecessary. Everybody knows it's wrong to steal, rape, and murder. More man-manufactured so-called laws always equal less freedom. Less freedoms equal more enslavement. Even if policymakers, judges, lawyers, governors, and mayors tell you that the law will not be enforced and that it's only being used as a formality or as a crime deterrent or whatever good sounding reason they concoct, it's still a codified edict which forces an individual to comply or else. And any man-made law written on the books always has the potential to boomerang and come back around and bite you like you've never been bitten before if you don't comply with what is written. An example of a really, really good sounding law, at least for pro-gun advocates, can be found in Kennesaw, Georgia. Since 1982, it's been a law in Kennesaw that every head of the household residing in the city limits is required to maintain a firearm. Required. That means if you don't own a firearm, you're technically a lawbreaker. Is it good to empower yourself? Yeah. Is it good to learn how to use a firearm? Of course. Is it a good thing to equip yourself with said firearm so in case something happens, you got something to protect yourself and your family? Yes. But laws make demands of individuals, and those who don't follow the demands become violators and therefore criminals in the eyes of the state, whether they say they're going to enforce it or not. Now, officials do ensure that this law is not actually enforced in Kennesaw, Georgia. Lieutenant Craig Graydon, who's been with the Kennesaw Police Department for over 30 years, says that it was meant to be a deterrent. He said, quote, "It was also more or less a political statement because the city of Morton Grove, Illinois, passed a city ordinance banning handguns from their city limits. So of course the answer would have to be forcing people in your city limits to own a firearm, right?" And to its credit, Kennesaw is a town of about 33,000 people, and as of a 2018 article that I found, they only had one murder in the previous 6 years and a violent crime rate of below 2%, which is fantastic. And who knows how much this mandatory ownership of firearms law had to do with that. But why even make a law like that in the first place? Why not just make it very public that we highly encourage everyone in Kennesaw to arm up? Criminals, take notice. Our people are armed to the teeth. Maybe make the area slogan, a highly armed society is a criminally free society. So come to Kennesaw and experience some Southern-style, crime-free, locked and loaded hospitality. Now, this next example of making an edict that sounds good at first but should be rejected by freedom-loving people comes to us from Estancia, New Mexico. Listen to what Mayor Nathan Dial says here.
Hi, I'm Mayor Nathan Dial, town of Estancia, retired military, local resident all of my life. My goal today is to bring attention to the radical decisions that are being made at the state and federal level, which is forcing me as a hometown mayor to make a radical decision, which my radical decision is on Monday night, the 15th, I'm going to present to my trustees that in order to attend a town meeting, one must be legally armed.
Now let's think about this. This mayor wants to bring attention to state and federal overreach, but then turns around and adds a little overreach of his own by requiring anybody who wants to attend a town meeting to be armed. And the implication is if you're not armed, you can't attend a public meeting. So while this may be applauded by many as a good thing, this is still an infringement on rights. In this case, the right to not be armed if you don't want to be. And so if you're not armed, you don't get to exercise your First Amendment right to be present at a public meeting and speak your piece or record the proceedings? And what does legally armed mean anyway?
One must be legally armed.
The general idea of legality is that you have the blessing of the state to do what you're doing. See, legality carries with it the idea of being permitted or granted by the state, in this case, to carry a weapon under certain state-defined conditions. Here's the deal. Under natural law, you don't need the permission of any man to do anything as long as you're not harming, threatening to harm, or stealing or damaging somebody else's property. I wanted to get this video out there because it's important to understand that in truth, number one, you don't need permission from anybody to do anything. Not legitimately anyway. Number two, more laws, including seemingly good laws, make you less free. Number three, statist ideas of lawmaking always leads to hypocrisy, contradiction, and inconsistency, and you can see that here. Number four, necessity will always be the plea for every infringement of human freedoms. This prohibition of non-gun owners that bars access to a town meeting is an infringement on human freedoms in the name of combating state and federal infringements on human freedoms. So leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with everybody you know. I'll see you guys in the next video.